Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupara Paramhansa Parivrajakacharya Statara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Sega Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundigiri Govardhana Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki, Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Jainatai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, continuing. Canto 11, chapter 2, text 41. As stated in Vedanta Sutra, Janmadyasya Yataha, the absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. Similarly, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavaha, I am the source of everything. If we see anything totally disconnected from the personal body of Krishna, we may doubt whether Krishna's personality is actually the absolute source described in the Vedanta Sutra. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has warned us, if we do not see everything as a manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we shall become victims of Falgu Vairagya, or immature renunciation. Whatever we see as disconnected from Krishna will have in our mind no relationship to Krishna's service. But if we see everything as connected to Krishna, we shall use everything for Krishna's satisfaction. This is called Yukta Vairagya. Right? So Yukta means it's actually connected to Krishna. So if you don't see its connection to Krishna, then you won't get the proper perspective. And those things that you don't see that it's your duty or you're not involved in to engage in Krishna's service, though it's connected to Krishna, then the problem is that renunciation will be also of something that's not connected to Krishna. Right? Since everything is connected to Krishna, then Vairagya means that it's for Krishna's satisfaction, not for ours. Right? So that because it's for Krishna's satisfaction, it's connected to Krishna, so you have the Yukta aspect. And because it's not for you, it's for Krishna, then you have the Vairagya. So they both happen at once. Right? There's no separate endeavor. So that's the nice thing about this. But otherwise, if we see that things are separate from Krishna, and we'll see, okay, we accept this, we reject this, but then the problem is what's it based on? It's not based on the spiritual platform. It'll be based on considering our conditioning, our own particular values, these kind of things like that. Does that make sense? So it can't start there. It has to be, it's all Krishna. It's all to be used for Krishna. And so according to my nature, I will use this aspect for Krishna. And someone else, by their nature, uses some other aspect for Krishna. So that's the Yukta Vairagya. Right? According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, quote, one who has experienced his own true identity understands that all things exist as paraphernalia for giving ecstatic pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Thus, one becomes free from the separatist vision, in which one sees the world as existing for one's own enjoyment. In the transcendental state, whatever a devotee sees reminds him of Krishna, and thus his transcendental knowledge and bliss increase. Right? So when you see your identity as servant of Krishna and everything in relation to Krishna, then we're seeing things properly. Otherwise, then we may see it separately. So the separatist vision, Kapila Muni in the third canto talks about this. The separatist means he sees things different from Krishna. He doesn't see them connected to Krishna. So therefore, he'll accept and reject based on his own values. It may have some connection with what is given in the scripture, but the point is he's seeing it from his own perspective rather than it's all Krishna and it's all for Krishna. Then it's a matter of us using it to please Krishna. Right? Okay. Text 42. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. Right? So you have all these aspects. They all happen at once. They're different. You have one thing, but you look at it from different angles. So if you're performing the activity connected with that thing in the appropriate way, all the angles are taken care of. So when we serve Krishna in devotion, then all the different aspects are all taken care of. That's why everyone becomes satisfied. Right? Does that make sense? So it's because of the Krishna's pleasure, everyone becomes satisfied. Because Krishna being everything, that means everything connected. You see yourself connected to Krishna, Krishna's pleased, then you'll be pleased because of that connection. Right? It's not because we've done something, it's because Krishna's pleased. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this analogy as follows. Bhakti, or devotion, may be compared to tushti, satisfaction, because they both take the form of pleasure. Pare shanu bhava, experience of the Supreme Lord. And pushti, nourishment, are analogous because both sustain one's life. Finally, virakti, detachment, and kshud apaya, cessation of hunger, may be compared because both free one from further hankering so that one may experience shanti or peace. A person who is eating not only becomes uninterested in other activities, but increasingly becomes uninterested in the food itself, according to his satisfaction. On the other hand, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, although one who is experiencing the blissful personality of Godhead, Krishna, becomes uninterested in anything other than Krishna, his attachment to Krishna increases at every moment. Right? Because analogies will always have a weakness, because you're trying to compare something that we have an experience of to give us an idea of the transcendental position, like that. But, so it's something to work from. It brings us near, like that. So in here is that you gain all these, so the main point is by eating, you gain all these three positions, right? You have the satisfaction, you have the nourishment, and you have the detachment or cessation of hunger, right? But in here, then you aren't interested in the food. But in Krishna consciousness, these three happen, that you're completely satisfied in dealing with Krishna, that devotion is there, and you have no interest in anything else other than serving Krishna. But the interaction with Krishna, that doesn't decrease because of the desire for interacting with Krishna doesn't stop because we're like eating. That just keeps on. So what it's showing is that all these things can happen at once. That's the main thing. So, yeah. Therefore, it's to be understood that the transcendental beauty and qualities of the Supreme Lord are not material, since one never becomes satiated by relishing the bliss of the Supreme Lord. The word virakti is very significant in this verse. Virakti means detachment, whereas tyag means renunciation. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word renunciation can be used in a situation in which one considers giving up an enjoyable object. But by considering everything to be potential paraphernalia in the service of Lord Krishna, as described in the previous verse, one need not give thought to renunciation, for one uses everything in the proper way in the service of the Lord. Yukta vairagyam uchate. Right, so that always using it Krishna's service like that. Krishna defines that in the Gita as sannyas, because it means that complete connection, that complete giving up of things. But it's giving up means you're engaging in Krishna's service. Renunciation means you're thinking it could be used for sense gratification, but you don't, and you connect, and then the next step is then you connect it to Krishna. Right? But sannyas means there is no option for sense gratification. That's not what you see. And you use it for Krishna, for his pleasure. Right? So that's what one's trying to get to. So as one progresses, one starts on one level, but it will gradually go to, it'll increase. As you deal with Krishna, then that taste for dealing with Krishna comes more and more. The interest in things not connected to Krishna becomes more and more. So it's not that you have to separately renounce everything. You're just not interested in anything but Krishna. So if something has a relationship to Krishna that you can engage it, that has an interest. And if it doesn't, there isn't any interest. You know, does that make sense? Yeah. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the path of bhakti yoga is so joyful and practical that even in the stage of sadhana bhakti, in which one follows rules and regulations without an advanced understanding, one can perceive the ultimate result, as stated by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187. Iha yasya harer dasye karbana manasa gira nikila svapyavastha tasu jivan muktas sauchate. As soon as one surrenders to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, prapadya manasya, giving up all other activities, viraktir anyatra cha, one is immediately to be considered a liberated soul, jivan muktaha. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, is so merciful that when a living entity understands that the personality of Krishna is the source of everything and surrenders to the Lord, Krishna personally takes charge of him and reveals to him within his heart that he is under the Lord's full protection. Thus devotion, direct experience of the personality of Godhead, and detachment from other objects becomes manifest even in the beginning stage of Bhakti Yoga, since Bhakti Yoga begins at the point of liberation. Other processes have their final goal, salvation or liberation, but according to Bhagavad Gita, if one surrenders to Krishna, one is immediately liberated, and thus begins his career as a transcendental devotee with complete confidence in the Lord's protection. Right? So when one takes up devotional service that has that faith, you're technically situated on the liberated platform. Right? That's why in the morning it was mentioning even somebody gets distracted, they're still properly situated, right? Because they have that faith in Krishna. Right? And then you're trying to move forward in this devotion to Krishna, right? Thank you. Thank you. So, devotional service starts from liberation because one's not interested in the material world, right? While the material, other religious processes, the highest of them may have their goal as liberation. But bhakti starts there, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So then it's because you see it's all for Krishna, though we may not be so practiced at it, so there'll be a mixed effect. But if one continues at it, then it comes to the platform of purity. But it's just that one has to be aware that that mixed effect is not the actual goal, or it's not the standard. It's maybe what you use, but it's making the best of a bad bargain, right? And then, as you can improve it, you do, right? So. Lord's protection. So you want to know what that protection means. Can you walk down the street with attitude right straight through the group of Hell's Angels while they're there on their bikes, and you will be protected? Is that what you want to know? You wouldn't consider maybe staying on the other side of the street and not paying any attention? You understand? What is protection? What is being protected? Okay. So the main point, the essential point is that we're the soul, we're not the body. Right? So the soul, when they're connected to Krishna, then that's actually the safe position. That's the fearless position. Because one's relationship with Krishna, that will be maintained. That will be cultivated. So that won't be lost, right? Fear means is you may lose something, but you can't lose your relationship to Krishna. Because we're his servant. We're his eternal servant. right? So then that consciousness and that determination to move forward in Krishna consciousness, then Krishna protects that position. That's the main thing, right? Yeah? Yeah. So, and then accordingly, with what will assist in your progress in Krishna consciousness, then the things connected to you then may, be available for use in Krishna's service, or they may not. Just depends upon how you see them. You see them connected to Krishna, then if they're there, you'll use them for Krishna. And if they're not there, you're not worried either. But if you're attached to them for yourself, then if they're there, you get distracted from Krishna, and if they're not there, you get distracted from Krishna. So whichever of those two distractions will be more favorable for you being Krishna conscious, that's generally what happens. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes? No? Okay. Thus, devotion, direct experience of the personality of Godhead, and a detachment from other objects becomes manifest even in the beginning stage of Bhakti Yoga. Right? So everybody can experience this. It's just of what degree, but the point is these experience of these is much greater than anything material. So it will always have an effect. Now, if one remembers this, continues in this path, then it will work out very nicely. But if we become distracted, then we'll find it works slower. It'll always work, but it just is slower. Text 43. My dear king, the devotee who worships the lotus feet of the infallible personality of Godhead with constant endeavor thus achieves unflinching devotion, detachment, and experienced knowledge of the personality of Godhead. In this way, the successful devotee of the Lord achieves supreme spiritual bliss. Srila Prabhupada comments, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. Right? Then again in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19:149, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Shakali Ashanta. Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruit of workers desire material enjoyment. Jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this verse ends the answer given by the first of the 9 Yogendras, Kavi, to Maharaj Nimi's first question, what is the highest good? Right? So we can see from here, the highest good then is seeing everything in connection with Krishna. Because then, one's always engaged in Krishna service, one is absorbed in Krishna, and so then that's actually the real benefit, because all other aspects that one, in performance of religious activities, they'll simply give a material reaction. They won't actually give something beyond that. They can't. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha can only give results within that sphere. But Bhakti can give results beyond that sphere. So engaging Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha in Krishna's service to please Krishna, then that's the highest good. Right? All other things have to be seen in relation to that. Other things, because if we see that, no, this thing is good also, then the problem is are we seeing it in connection to Krishna? We may see, but the point of it's the reason that it's of value is because it's connection to Krishna. Without that connection to Krishna, it has no meaning. Right? But we're seeing it different from Krishna and still of value. It is of value because it's Krishna, but we're seeing its value on its own. Does that make sense? Yeah.
to rig the game so material life is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like read eternal.
so rig the game so even though you don't know it, you work it out.
House always wins. Yeah, it's just because it's just like, how you say, the prison is run in a certain way for a particular effect. The prison's meant for reformation. So then, according to the, what is understood as reformation and what is understood as retribution, then the prison environments run in a particular way. So for Krishna is that the living entity, their natural position, is functioning in the capacity of his servant. And in that capacity, they're happy, they're satisfied. But because of not properly understanding this, then they've decided to not act in this capacity. And by not acting in this capacity, then they're not actually happy, they're not satisfied. And because of that, they suffer. So the suffering is there because of turning away from Krishna. Right? So what makes the material world is we don't see it connected to Krishna. Otherwise, if connected to Krishna, whether something's lasts longer or shorter, it doesn't really matter. It's just it's use in Krishna's service. As it's there, you use it. When it's not there, you don't use it. It's just like you go to the market and these vegetables are in season, you use those. When they go out of season, it's not a problem. The next ones come in, you use those for Krishna. Right? So if it's just using it for Krishna, then it works nicely. But if it's sense gratification, then okay, this is in season, we like this, therefore it's good. Now the season's finished, and what comes in next we don't like, so therefore it's bad. Right? So the suffering actually is generated by ourselves. Right? Does that make sense? Because of our perception. So here then Kavi, the first of the Nava-Yogendras, then he gave that if you see everything in connection with Krishna, then that transcendental position, that transcendental happiness coming from that position is ever increasing. So then there's no problem, because that's actually what the material world's meant for, is that because of the disturbance that comes from not seeing it connected to Krishna, then one will start to wonder, why is this? Since the natural thing is you do work, you get results, and then the experience will make you happy. The living entity has these two illusions, Vaikuntha Brahma and Ananda Brahma. So Vaikuntha Brahma means they think that the material world is eternal, like Vaikuntha. And Ananda Brahma, they think that it is full of happiness. And because of that, they suffer because it's not. Because it only has meaning when it's connected to Krishna. It's like the machine will only work when it's plugged in. If it's not plugged in, it won't work. It's just so material world, when it's not connected to Krishna by our understanding, then the effect for us, it doesn't work. Does that make sense? And work here means it won't give us satisfaction. Because we may say externally it may work, but still there's no satisfaction. Right? Yeah.
So do you need to do reflection and measurement all the time? How
do we need to
reflection and measurement of where we are?
See, as reflection, it's just a matter of your values, right? Because otherwise, let's say economically, are we not reflecting a lot of the time? Or attachment to the family, are we not reflecting on that? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the point is reflection, that's going on. That's just what the mind does. Now it's a matter of what you're going to reflect on the senses, on the social environment, on the proper duties to perform, on the position of being liberated, or on devotion to Krishna. Because consciousness means you're conscious. And depending upon your level of consciousness, that's how you're going to view everything you do. So we're already doing that. We're just asked to just shift it so it's being done in connection to Krishna. It's not that, oh, we're not doing this. No, that's all we're doing. So now just do that so it's connected to Krishna. Is that okay? Okay, so that ends that first question, because he'll ask 9 questions, and each one of the different Navayogendras will speak. So Kavi was the first. So his question is, what is the highest good? So text 44. Maharaj Nimi said, now please tell me in greater detail about the devotees of the Supreme Lord. What are the natural symptoms by which I can distinguish between the most advanced devotees, those in the middle level, and those who are neophytes? What are the typical religious activities of a Vaishnava, and how does he speak? Specifically describe those symptoms and characteristics by which Vaishnavas become dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So they're Vaishnavas, so they're absorbed in Krishna. So that's always the point. So therefore, what is the typical religious activities? How do they do? How do they deal with that? How do they apply it? What's the etiquette? What's the culture? Right? Because there is a natural culture. Since it's about Krishna, the culture would be something that also has that connection with Krishna. Does that make sense? So one is applying that natural culture into the environment you're in. So it means the superior the environment, the more closer you can use in, as he said here, the typical religious activities. And if not, then one may have to simplify the process, so you just pare it down to the essentials, and details aren't so much. But that's just the way it works. That's how circumstances affect what's going on, right? Because in a particular circumstance, then the paraphernalia, and so that means the circumstance means there's paraphernalia there, right? And then what is your connection with that situation, right? Because generally speaking, most people use it that the circumstance means the situation alone, and therefore I'm controlled by that. What can I do? But it's actually, you're supposed to look at it the other way, is the situation is there. What's my relationship with that situation? So therefore, what should I be doing based on that situation? How is that defined by Krishna? Because generally we use, what about time, place, and circumstance? They generally means I'm going to do it my way. Right, it's how you say it, the Frank Sinatra Sampradaya, right? But then there's the others we're seeing it. How can we serve Krishna? Now, if that situation is such that the opportunities for service are not our duties, we don't have a connect, then that's left, and we continue on until we find situations where it is our duties. Does that make sense? Yeah. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, Krishneti yasya giri tam mana sadriyeta. One should mentally honor any devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. Upadeshamrita 5. Any living entity who is faithfully chanting the holy name of Krishna is to be considered a Vaishnava, and at least within the mind to be offered respect. Okay, and then so Maharaj Nimi is humbly inquiring, what are the character, behavior, and speech of devotees? The king wants to know the particular symptoms of body, mind, and speech by which the different categories, Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Kanistha Adhikari, are clearly identified. In response to the king's inquiry, another of the Navayogendras, namely Javier, will give a further elaboration of the science of Krishna consciousness. text 45. Sri Javier said, "The most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord." So now if we're looking at again, is that the situation that you're in, then it's just a situation. It's dynamic because of the living entities in the situation who are therefore going to interact with the situation depending upon their position. Right? Because if we're looking at it from the personal point of view, then there's Krishna, then his energies expand. Right? And he's in control of these energies, therefore they function in a particular way. We can then find ourselves in that position to serve Krishna, right, according to our nature. But we have to bring ourselves in line with that nature because there's an absolute truth. So that means that all these things therefore already have means we have the conditioning we have, and the environments they already have their nature. Right? They may be changing and all these things, but the nature is already there. Means whatever it is, it has a nature. As it adjusts, then it still has a nature. It may be slightly different, but it still already has. Not that it's changed. It has the nature that's there for the change situation is what you have to deal with. Right? Does that make sense? So we see when it comes down, it has one particular thing that is consistent. But now if we start from the other way and bring it up, well, there's the environment, and then according to that, then what happens? Then it's more our choice, because at what point does it get to Krishna? Right? So if Krishna is in everyone's heart, therefore it's about the living entity, the Lord and the living entities in the situation, not the situation. Right? The Lord is there, right? And then the living entity's there. The relationship between the living entity and the Lord, that's what's to be seen. Then that application of that in that situation then is applied. Right? But if we don't see the Lord involved, we just see the situations, and then, we're, how do you say? That's something about where, it's a phrase basically meaning we're controlled by circumstances. The circumstances just going on, and we're something like that. There's some phrase. It's one of those. It's floating around in the back there somewhere, but keeping its safe distance. Victim of circumstance. Yeah, victim of circumstance. And so then. That's the whole point. So it still comes out as personal in one sense, but it's about we're a victim of the circumstance rather than it's our choice than how we're going to deal and how we're going to be situated. Because you always have a choice. It's just a matter of the results of that choice you may or may not like. Is that, yeah. In this verse, the word Bhagavatottama, the most advanced devotee, indicates that there are those who are not gross materialists, but who are not the highest devotees. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who could not properly distinguish between devotees and non-devotees, and who therefore never worship the pure devotees of the Lord, are to be known as Kanistha Adhikaris, devotees on the lowest stage of devotional service. Such Kanistha Adhikaris engage in worship of the Supreme Lord, especially in the temple, but are indifferent to the Lord's devotees. Right? Does that make sense? So they worship the Lord, they have faith, because remember in the previous verses it was saying that one who has that faith and takes up that process of devotional service, chanting the Lord's names, then they're on the liberated platform. But it's just that they're just situated on the platform, but what you can do in that platform. Does that make sense? Because we'll say, oh, but how can they be situated? It would be just like take somebody who's just passed, on the third try, they just squeaked by and got their license. Okay? Right. Now let's take them and put them into some really, really, nicely designed race car. Are they in a race car or not? Yes. They're situated there. But what can they do with it? Not much. They're the neophyte. The Madhma can kind of get around. The Uttama really knows what to do with it. So it's just a matter, and so what's the difference is you know what the purpose is. It's the Lord, so therefore the connection to the Lord, that's what you're supposed to do with it. So even though the neophyte is situated on the liberated platform, it's just they don't know how to use that to proper advantage. Sometimes they'll do, the direct activities are obvious, those go on, but outside of that, then it may be a bit hit or miss. So then by getting nice association, then one starts to see how the broader range of engagement of Krishna service is there. And so then they start to advance in Krishna service and come to the next platform. And by that continuous, then they come to the platform, the Uttama platform. Yes.
I'm just trying to understand the definition of being on the liberated platform. Like you say, even in neophyte, because he's under protection of the Lord, he's
Because that's where he's situated. He's performing devotional service. Is devotional service material or spiritual? And liberation is material or spiritual? Okay. So therefore, does that make sense? What do we say? The devotional service is on the spiritual platform, right? What was the other thing we said? Yeah, and liberation is the spiritual platform. Therefore, if you're doing devotional service, you're liberated. But it's a platform. And platforms, they have their limit on, what you have to do something with it.
So my question wasn't like as a neophyte, then you're still like person of the size for sense purification, where you don't see Krishna in the picture.
Yeah, it's like sitting there in the Lamborghini and playing with a radio.
That's then still under the influence of the three worlds, but liberation and other definitions like if you free from the influence of the three worlds, so how do you see that?
We see it that liberation is nothing special. And once we see that liberation is not special and devotional service is, then this becomes a very easy point. But when we take that liberation as something very special, then we try to elevate it above ours and everybody else that we know's position. Does that make sense? Because you're taking it that it's special, because the point is devotional service is not on the material platform. So it's liberated.
Yeah, devotional service, but if the form that sometimes is devotional service, but at other times.
But the point is he's a devotee. What's his consciousness? He's trying to be a devotee, but it, goes in and out of things. So that's the point, is that if we can't appreciate the position of the devotee, then that's not a strong position. Because we'll say, oh, they're not advanced because they're not this or that, or. But then we're judging. Here, Paramahamsas who are on that transcendental position, they're saying this. But it's not some Sahajiyas are saying this because they want to present themselves as something very special. Liberated souls are saying this. See, because you're taking it that we're here and liberation is up there. No, we're here and liberation's down there. You're standing on liberation. It's not something to obtain. Because, okay, let us even just take it from it's something to obtain. Okay? So, what did you say that is required to be on the liberated platform?
You're being free from the
Free from the influence of the three modes. Okay, so how will you get free from the influence of the three modes? Is there such a thing as being liberated without devotional service? And why not?
Because even the other forms of yoga, they have some devotional aspect in the spirit. It's only by
Okay. Okay. So, therefore, it has some aspect, and so then we're using that to answer the question. So the neophyte devotee, there's some aspect of his absorption in Krishna consciousness. Why wouldn't that yoga system be considered liberation? Why do they have to be like doing pretzel yoga or, you know, how you say, total renounced and, you know, how you say, living off of air, you know, yoga? You understand? Because we have this faith in karma and jnana. And then for the devotees, we just figure this is not something so special. Does that make sense? It's a matter of appreciating the actual glory of devotional service. So a devotee is situated. It's just like, okay, you're here in the temple. Okay? So, technically speaking, then you're situated on the temple room floor. Yes or no? Right? So, you're situated in the temple. Is this temple room floor material or spiritual? Spiritual, right? Because it's Krishna's temple room. Okay, so that means one is situated spiritually. Yes? Now, even though you're situated there, you may or may not be absorbed in Krishna. But when you're not absorbed in Krishna, then you look around and you're out there in the middle of traffic out there, and then when you go, oh, this is crazy, Krishna saved me, then you're back here again. Right? Is that how it works? And then you go, wow, what's that? And then you're out in the street again. You're situated here. See, we're taking it that this floor, that's the ultimate goal. It's up there. It's not. It's the platform we function from. You understand? So then it's a matter of what you do with it. So the neophyte, then he worships the Lord but doesn't really care about the devotees. Right? Because if you have the Lord's pastimes, they're going on 24/7, right? Yes. And how are they going on? Just the Lord himself is there and keeping himself busy and with devotees. So now if the neophyte doesn't really appreciate devotees, how much can you be absorbed in appreciating Krishna? Yeah, not so much. So that's what makes them neophyte. Then when they start to appreciate the devotees, the association of the devotees, and the importance of that, along with the worship of the Lord, that's the madhyama. Right? And when one can fully appreciate the Lord and his relationship with the devotees and how everything's connected to the Lord and everything's seen in relationship to the Lord, that's the uttama. Right? And they're all standing on the same floor. Yes? Does this work? Do you understand it?
Yes, just the aspect of the gunas, like when, as a neophyte,
But you're on the floor. Even if the gunas are affecting you, you're still on this floor.
how can they even leave you?
Because you're here. It's like you bring them with you. You have that stinky sweater that sits in the corner, and then, you know, you've wanted to wash it for the last 3 months, but you never get around to it. And so, but it's cold, so you put it on. So when you come into the temple, you bring your stinky sweater with you. But are you on the temple room floor? Well, the deity's here. Is there devotional service? The Krishna's three modes, they're not yours. So what's the problem if they're hanging around? You know, I'm saying they're not the problem. Our attachment to them is the problem. You know, it's just like Krishna and his gopis, or let's say Balaram and his gopis, I think it was. Oh, I can't remember. It was Balaram or Krishna. They're with their gopis, right? And then I think Shankachuta comes along, right? You know, Shankachuta is one of the demons. And he sees the gopis and he says, wow, now these are nice looking girls. So he decides to take a few home. So he's functioning under the modes of nature, no? But is Vrindavan under the modes of nature? Are the gopis under the modes of nature? Because he comes in and touches it, now, you know, zap, everything just turns into the modes of nature, you've ruined it all. It's you. It means it's not a problem. It's how you see them. They're all part of Krishna's energies, so they're all engaged in Krishna's service. The modes of nature are not in Maya. You understand? So it's your mentality. But where you're situated and where the activities you perform, those are transcendental. You're trying to transfer the... So how will you transfer the consciousness from material to spiritual if the place you're situated is material? You know, the example is how you say? Can you purify your hands of blood by washing them with blood? Yes or no? Okay. Right. What is it? If it doesn't work for Beckett, it won't work for anybody, right? Macbeth, excuse me. You understand?
Is it then kind of like the devotee is on the liberated platform?
He is on the liberated. So the whole point is liberation isn't special. We're taking it liberation special, so how can he be there? No more this, because we're attached to the concept that liberation is a goal. It's not. It's just a situation. The floor is not the goal. Serving Krishna in the association of devotees, that's the goal. You know, to please Krishna in that association, not the floor. Right? So the impersonalists, they're just trying to get to the floor. You know? It's like, yeah, there is no floor. The floor of no floor. Right? Yeah, that's... You understand? So when we give up our attachment for liberation, we can understand this. Because we're thinking it's so special. It's not so special. Right? So what's special? What can make something that in the material world is so special, what can make it not special? Just something spiritual. Just any old spiritual kind of something. Means, did Kavi not define that? Right? Did he not say the devotional service, that's the specialness? Right? So it's devotional service that's special, and so in comparison to that, it's not. So from the meager aspects of the material world that we're trying to be absorbed in, right? Which seem very great to us, then liberation from that is something very special. Because what we're dealing with is so meager. Right? But when you're dealing with devotional service, which is so great, then liberation, which isn't that special, is how do you say? Put into its natural position. And it's just like Bengali saying, in a village of blind men, the man with one eye is king. Yes? Yeah. But is that special? Is he like, you know, he's the fabulous, you know, the perfection of all, administrative, abilities. No, he just happens to have one eye, so, because everybody else falls in the ditch. Cool, okay, it happens, right? But he's the king. You're not supposed to fall in the ditch, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that it's two different things, but, so can we say then like, a neophyte who goes to, that he's on the liberated platform, but sometimes he chooses to do material activity?
He doesn't take advantage of it. He's situated there, but he tends to not fully take advantage of it. Right? While the Madhyama regularly takes advantage of that transcendental position. And the Uttama, he's situated in the topmost understanding and application of that position. It's a matter of use. Like we said, like you're in the, we're here. You're here. Now you're here. Then, someone else will, start a kirtan or read a book or, chant a japa or something like that. But, the neophyte might be sitting over there and doing his texting on his phone. Like that. Just saying. Does that make sense? So, he's not taking advantage of the environment. Because you could be anywhere to do that, but when you're here, then you take advantage of what's available. I can remember yesterday we were driving around to different places, and when we'd stop, there was always somebody sitting there, fully absorbed in texting. And then we went to the next place, and where we parked the car, there was someone else sitting there texting. So wherever we went, there was someone just sitting and texting. Right? So you can go anywhere and do that. Right? But the temple room, the advantage is then you can do service. That's what it's designed for. Right? Does that make sense? Not that you can't do devotional service anywhere where you are, but the environment's not as great, not as special. Right, sitting on some steps of, like that, next to where they're parking the cars and people are walking by and all that. It's not your ideal situation, but you can be Krishna conscious there, of course. That's why in the material world, you can be Krishna conscious. But the point is the spiritual world is designed so that it's meant for using in Krishna's service, for those who are doing. But it's all Krishna's energy, so you can use it. So if you have taken up the devotional process, you're situated on that spiritual platform. Right? Because it's not a matter of time and space. Right? Because we're looking at it, liberation is somewhere over there. There's no time and space. You understand? So you can't define liberation by time and space in our own values, and then when we apply it to others, then say they have to be beyond time and space. That won't work very good.
So it's kind of like motivation from one, because as soon as someone has taken out devotional service, he is on this platform, and even if he goes down,
He's still on the same platform.
he's always on the platform.
That's why they're considered saintly. They're rightly situated.
Because it's only a question of this individual consciousness, even if it's like externally, like,
They're not taking advantage of what they can do. Does that make sense? So that's why all devotees are respected. Because of the situation they're in, then the situation is perfect. Whether they're perfectly taking advantage of the situation, that's another thing. Because the material world is created, Krishna made it for becoming Krishna conscious. So if you're on the path of Krishna conscious, you're already doing what the material world is meant for. It's not meant to be, you know, rich and famous and, you know, educated and beautiful and all those kind of things. Those are all Krishna's energies, so they can be used, but using them separate from Krishna, that's not what it's for. You're supposed to use it in service of Krishna. So they're there so you can use it for Krishna's service, because if they're not there, what do you do? Right? So makes sense, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Other day you called the points of knowledge, skill, and attitude. So, am I correct?
Yeah.
So that means that the adhikari has a different level of this, they're using that to their advantage.
Means that they're appreciating more knowledge. The attitude is that more surrender to Krishna, that understanding the goal and how it's to please Krishna. All that is developing. It's maturing. It's like anything. Anything you know, you practice. You may hear the knowledge. So that's the first thing. The first thing is that you're going to hear and try to assimilate that knowledge. So then you're going to practice it, and then you'll get an understanding. But if you continue that, then you start to get maturity where then you realize that. So then you can appreciate or experience then what's talking about. Because that was also previously mentioned about the experience of Krishna consciousness. Right? It's all knowledge, but you have the, how do you say? Hearing, and I think hearing, inquiry, and tasting. So generally when we talk about knowledge, it's only these first level. We're hearing about, we're trying to remove the doubts, we're trying to understand. And that much we'll call knowledge. But actually, that is knowledge, but it's considered complete when you can taste what that knowledge is about. Right? So that's the difference. That's why in the material context it becomes dry. Because it's only dealing on that part. Because the taste in Krishna consciousness, that's where that's where it becomes nice. Does that make sense? So, but in the modern scientific concept, that'll be considered sentimental. That'll be subjective. That's, you know, so it's out of the loop. It's not knowledge. But that's why we call them dry speculators, because they don't accept the full definition of knowledge. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then we're dealing with that whole thing. So that's why you see as the knowledge progresses, then at some point it's just talking about the taste in Krishna consciousness. Taste you have to taste, but they can describe it. You know, it means what people are doing, the symptoms, but they can't describe the taste itself. That you have to taste. But you'll see is that in the beginning it's about how we're not God, and then it comes to the Lord's pastimes where Krishna and the devotees are interacting. Does that make sense? Yes. Yes, by regular application. Then that gives realization, and then you can say from there, then that taste is there. It's like a value. When the value is there, then you appreciate it. But if the value is not there, then the tendency is that if you're intelligent, then you can see the importance of doing something, so you do it, as a practice. But once you get a taste for it, then you don't need to use the intelligence to be involved in it. You don't have to, you don't have to contemplate that this is a good thing, or you appreciate it.
If you don't have the value at the beginning, you can say, I want to have it.
Yes. But as mentioned also in the previous, there is some, in Krishna consciousness, there is some, realization of that. But because the volume is not so great, we won't call it realization. Because realization means that that's the majority aspect. Right? So there's something there. Otherwise, why have the faith? Why progress? Yeah.
You put there's a reaction for disenchantment. So before time,
That's there, but then there's a taste in that, what do you call it? Disenchantment. So you have to keep yourself in an environment that nourishes the disenchantment. So whatever form you're using, then, that's what you have to do, like binging on ice cream or something. You have to keep yourself, in that environment. Then that taste will go on. Yeah, so then for us is that because you're dealing with Krishna and devotional service and the devotees, then that taste is actually in Krishna consciousness. But because that taste is not so big, it means, in other words, that taste, depending on its volume and depth, we give it, basically for understanding the progressive nature of devotional service, we give it 9 names. Right? But actually it's all one thing, it's just varying degrees of it. Does that make sense? Like that. So when it's just a small amount, we call it faith, shraddha. A little bit more sadhusanga. So that shraddha to prema. Prema is mature faith. So that's the actual natural position. Does that make sense? Yes, yes. Then it just moves forward. But there is some taste, there is some knowledge, there is some detachment from no interest in other things. That's why you progress. But it's just smaller, so when it's just budding, then we'll call it faith. Because that's the one thing that stands out. Then as we go, then we appreciate the association. Then we want to take up the activities in that association. Then we're willing to give up our attachments and our anarthas. Then we become steady, and we're comfortable in being steady. Right, and like that. Then the taste comes. Then you could say it becomes more dynamic, because then it's more, the form of of bhava is appreciated, though it's not on the platform of bhava, but the form of it's there. Does that make sense? It's just like, let's say you have parts of something. Let's say, okay, there's, a little bit of bread, a crumb of bread, okay, and then there's a crumb of cheese, and then there's a little drop of tomato sauce, and what I'm saying, there's all these little things like that. Then, so they're just these little things, and there's a taste, they're into, like that. But then it comes to be, well, all those little drops are put together in one place, right? Then you understand it's there, but it's still not bhava. When you have the full pizza, then that's called bhava. Does that make sense? Yeah. If we just give you, a little bit, it has a taste and you can appreciate it. Like that. So from ruchi, then you appreciate that how the full taste is. But it's the volume of it's not very great. Therefore, we don't call it bhava, because it's just you chant it and you got that moment of that taste. But bhava means it's constant. Right? Yeah. So what we're talking about is so great. That's why we're saying liberation. It's like, how you say liberation. Oh, that's so existential. It's like, Yeah, because it's a taste. So in other words, the first two are the abstract, so you know the knowledge. Then from that application, then you get the taste that's concrete. No, because their experience of the concrete is material taste. So then the idea is that spiritual taste can't be that. It has to be something else. But it just means you're actually tasting something. It'd be like, again, having that pizza there, and you can see it in the mirror, and so you start licking the mirror, right? Or the example of the bee on the outside of the honey bottle, right? And so there's they can see the honey, but there's no taste because they don't understand. it's a different situation. Right? You have to be in the bottle, not outside the bottle. So when you're situated on the transcendental platform, serving Krishna, that's then where that taste comes. But if you're situated on the material platform, and that's the Tatastha Shakti, that they both can be happening at one time. Right. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, good. Okay. Okay, then there's the statement, okay, the Kanistha Adhikaris engaged in their worship of the Supreme Lord, especially in the temple, but are indifferent to the Lord's devotees. Thus they misunderstand this statement by Lord Shiva in the Padma Puran. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. O Devi, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. Greater than that is the worship of Tadiya, or anything belonging to Vishnu. Srila comments on this verse. Sri Vishnu is Satchidananda Vigraha. Similarly, the most confidential servant of Krishna, the spiritual master, and all devotees of Vishnu are Tadiya. Right? Because Tadiya means that which is connected, anything belonging to Krishna. The Satchidananda Vigraha Guru Vaishnavas and things used by them must be considered Tadiya, without a doubt worshipable by all living entities, by all living beings. Does that make sense? Right. So the Lord means how is he saying this? Oh, David, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. So of all the systems of worship that are there, the worship of Vishnu is the most exalted. There's not better than that. But still, greater than that is the worship of that which connected to the Lord. Right? So then we can see is then if we have this understanding that everything's connected to the Lord, everything's to be seen in relationship to using in Krishna's service for his satisfaction. So it's his energy, how he wants it used. It's not that, so then everything is Krishna, everything can be used, but then what will we pick? We'll pick things based on our values to use in Krishna's service. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, that's the, it's like what do you call it? You need to drink water, and there's water in the bowl on the floor that the dog's drinking out of, so therefore we can use that in Krishna's service. No, you can also get water from the tap or from, somewhere else to use in Krishna's service. Like that. And the principle remains. Like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he sees what was mentioned before by Kavi about seeing everything in connection to the Lord. Then that's this principle. It's the higher principle than just worship of Vishnu. Because when you see the neophyte sees the worship of Vishnu, so he's situated on the most exalted system of worship. But as he starts to mature, then we see, then it comes to greater than that, then is the worship where you see the Lord's devotees and his paraphernalia and like that. And then the Uttama, he doesn't see anything not connected to Krishna. Right? So that's what's happening, is that you're accepting as Krishna, and that's what makes the devotee. So they're situated on the transcendental position. Yeah, the whole process is taking lifetimes, because generally it takes quite a few of them. I've heard, I think that Prabhupada's mentioned, I haven't come across it in reading there, that generally someone who's taken up devotional service, they've already been through all 8,400,000 species of life, and it's kind of like been there, done that. So now they want to know why. I've done it all, so why am I still not satisfied like that? So to get that faith may to be taking so many lifetimes, so we don't know how many times we've been, how you say, walking down the street in our suit and with our briefcase and watch the devotees go by in Hari Nam or the Rath Yatra, and we go, that's weird. And then next lifetime, yeah, it's still weird. Then the lifetime after that is, what's going on? Then the next, like after that is, well, what's, interesting. The next life of that is, they actually look like they're having fun, and then one life, then you go up and, what are you guys doing? So then, and then finally, then we get faith. And then from there, once you get to that point of faith, then you can actually complete the process in one lifetime. But how many lifetimes it took to get to that point of faith, that we can't say. That's generally said many lifetimes of piety. Piety meaning devotional piety, or gyata sukriti. In one lifetime, because that's the platform. Now you're transcendentally situated. So now you can do it in one lifetime. Like that. Because it says, the Shastras say that. It's not just we say that. Shastras also say that. Bhagavatam says that. So it's not just we say that. Like that. So, yeah. Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted the following verses, which illustrate the ecstatic feelings of the topmost devotees of the Lord. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 10:35-9, the goddess of Braja speaks. Goddesses of Braja speak as follows. The creepers and trees of the forest, their branches weighed down by rich coverings of flowers and fruits, seem to manifest Lord Vishnu within their heart. Exhibiting eruptions of ecstatic love upon their bodies, they poured down rains of honey. Right, so then all these flowers and all that are coming because of their absorption in Krishna. And then from that, then the ecstasy, then you have all the what do you call it? The honey that's dripping from the trees. That so the flowers are like on the body you got goosebumps, and then the whole tree erupts and and all the flowers. And then there's so they're seeing it like that. So this is the topmost, because they see everything connected to Krishna. So because it's on the platform of taste, it takes on this sweet and poetic aspect. But but in the beginning, it will have that aspect of knowledge. So we understand it's all connected. But then as we practice and we start to see, and it turns into this, the very sweet aspect. That. Okay? Stop here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.